In this video, I got 100 levels ranging from very easy to absolutely impossible. And to make it even more interesting, I chose some of the most cursed and unique levels that I've ever seen in Geometry Dash. The difficulty will be showcased with these difficulty phases in the bottom left corner of the screen. Let's begin. The shortest and easiest you can make a level is by putting an object called a start position down that makes you enter the level as close to the end as possible. You don't need to do anything and the level will be completed in 0.2 seconds. This is the easiest level, level 1, and we are going all the way to level 100. The second level is a standard automatic level you got in the game where you don't need to do anything at all. An auto level where you can actually die is technically a little harder. Slot Machine V21 is exactly that, with a random chance of passing the level. Level 4 is a little harder than the previous 3, but you still don't need to do anything. This is because the level is possible and impossible at the same time. You see, at the end you reach percentage 100, meaning you beat the level, but you still die, making you never able to see the complete screen you get when beating a level. At level 5, we finally see a level where you genuinely need to do something. All you need to do here is hold to beat the level. Level 6 requires the person to click at the right time, even if it's only once. The easy rated level, the spike is over there, is the easiest rated level in Geometry Dash, where you only need to click once in the entire level. Let's move on to an actual level where you need to genuinely do something. Diverge is the name of a level where you have pretty easy gameplay which isn't hard to beat. Still, to the creator of this level, the level wasn't easy enough, because he made a health bar that very slowly went down whenever you hit an obstacle. You can almost hit everything and still pass the level. The first main wrapped up level is called Stereo Madness, the easiest one. Jazer made this level even easier by creating Stereo Madness if it was level 1, I'm not sure why. A little more difficult is a level named Super Slow. This is, like the name suggests, a level that just moves really slow, but it isn't that hard once you figure out what to do. Level 10 is a standard easy level. For this one I chose the level Withstanding, since it isn't too hard or too easy for its category. We are already at 10% of all the levels, and it soon is going to get really hard. First though, let's still take it easy with Stereo Madness, which will be the start of levels that are going to quickly get a lot harder. The following level is named the Button. In itself, it would rank a lot lower without its coin. You see, to get the coin in this easy level, you need to click 573 times. And you cannot spam at the start, otherwise this will happen. So enjoy making your fingers suffer. A tiny bit harder is the following level, which moves up a spot on the difficulty meter. In this 3-second level, you need to do 2 jumps with a robot, which both are pretty easy to do. We now take a big leap in the difficulty of the levels. But Webu, the following level is rated as an automatic level. How can this be hard? Well, this level called Geometry Map 8 Auto is currently the hardest rated auto level in the game. Even though it is short, it requires you to learn exactly where to jump. Another level that also requires some learning is this one. It is rated harder, but once you play it, you realize most of the gameplay is automatic and that there are only a couple jumps in the level. Do you hear that? Is another interesting level, since you can only play it without sound, otherwise you die. The level in itself is a bit easier than the standard Geometry Dash hard level, which ranks 1 spot above it. A little more difficult than level 17 is this level that, instead of making you move to the right of the screen, reverses your gameplay from finish to start, which is pretty cool. These, however, were just introductions to actually interesting things that I found later. On spot 18, we got this level that says subscribe to Webu, with a very hard jump at the end. I think the level is right, subscribe right now guys. Level 19 only works if you count your game crashing as completion. This level is basically blast processing but insanely cursed. It has countless of bugs that pop up, laggy gameplay, and it just looks really weird. After you beat it, your game will crash. GG. You might know a game called Taiko, where you hit a drum to click on a circle. This game also has been implemented in Geometry Dash and looks pretty smooth, as you can see. Level 21, also known as Sopo, is this jump where you need to jump over a gap with spikes over and over again for more than 100 times. Luckily it's very easy, so it wasn't that hard to beat it. Luster is a weird one. It has an easy difficulty phase with a 9-star rating, which is weird because the level isn't as hard as a 9-star level, or as easy as a 2-star level. It's around the difficulty of a 7-star, and was previously the easiest easy demon in the game. What about a level, however, that you can only beat in practice mode? This describes level practice only perfectly. By placing checkpoints at specific parts of the level, you can pass the level in practice mode, but never in normal mode. We are starting to get into more difficult territory. EVW Impossible New K is a challenge for YouTuber EVW, where you need to choose a path that leads you through this giant wall here, with only one gap in it where you can fit through. It's hard to figure out, but once you do, it's a piece of cake to beat. Level 25 is the most popular wave challenge in the entire game, made by Darnok with 14.5 million plays. The next level you cannot beat without hacks. When turning jump hacks on, you can basically fly between these spikes, which is harder than it looks. Not as hard as a standard insane difficulty level though, which you'll die on more often on average. A little harder than your standard insane level is the easiest demon that is currently in the game. It barely has any timings and barely any skill is needed to defeat this level. Level 29 called Jitter Dash is basically finger dash on a very low FPS, making it a little harder than normal but mostly looking very odd. For level 30 we need to move underground, which is where this level has to be played. This level by cop is literally underground as you can see here on the screen. It has some tricky gameplay and from here on I really started to struggle with these levels. Cataclysm is an extreme demon, one of the hardest levels in the game that has ever been beaten. Luckily Experience D made it a little easier by making it as difficult as 9-star level, even though it looks nothing like Cataclysm. Harder than this 9-star level is the hardest easy rated level in game, and it's insane. This level is called Double Triple Trials, and has some really hard triple spike timings that you're barely able to pass. Still not as hard as level 33. Where we move up another difficulty. This wave challenge isn't really hard. What actually makes it more difficult is the length, since this wave challenge is exactly 1 hour long, making it worthy of its easy demon spot. Level 34 and 35 are around the same difficulty. 34 is a 6-star rated level for which the creator requested 12 stars, which shouldn't be possible, and the level itself is pretty hard too. 35 is an easy demon called Second Chance, which you cannot beat without dying at certain areas. Your death unlocks the next part of the level, which is a pretty unique idea. On the harder side of the easy demon category is a level named Just a Normal Level. It has some pretty normal gameplay that's easy at the start, but after a while a very tight ship part appears, after which everything is the size of a giant. Luckily you can still pass those parts due to their small hitboxes, but it's still a hard challenge. We move up in difficulty again to Medium Demon, where we start off with Deadlocked, the hardest main level in the game. To make it a little harder, we move on to a way easier main level, Stereo Madness. Turned invisible. You cannot see the gameplay at all, making this 10 times as hard as the normal version of Stereo Madness. Not only can Stereo Madness be turned invisible though, it can also be turned into a level where you have a max amount of clicks to use. The least clicks you can use in Stereo Madness is 21, and you have to do some very tight jumps to reach this small number, making it turn out on the 39th spot. To finish the main levels off for now, we go back to Deadlocked but backwards. The level is a little harder than the normal one and looks weirder, but it's still not too bad to play. A little harder than your standard medium demon is the hardest easy demon in the game called Break the Rules. Out of all 1700 easy demons, this one is by far the hardest, which is a little weird, because it is not as hard as the hardest rated auto level in the history of the game. This was almost as hard as a hard demon level, which as a reference looks like this. Not sure why it got rated auto in the first place, but let's move on. Back to Stereo Madness again, since there is a remake harder than the invisible version of it. It is called Better Madness and consists of Stereo Madness but shaking as fast as possible with flashing lights. Now you are not only able to not see the level, but you also don't know where you are in the level. Basically the same as playing with a blindfold on. The longest level ever beaten is Desert Boss, being 8 hours long. The gameplay is very easy, but with such a long level, the chance of you making a mistake is huge. Level 46 is Orb Circles, based on the popular hard demon 9 Circles. It now is a little harder, but still relatively easy for its difficulty. The following layout is level 47, and has some normal gameplay except for this part, where you play with 4 players at the same time. Normally, you can play with max 2 players at the same time, so I have no idea how he did this. Level 48. Deadlocked, but you play with the UFO. Yeah, that's about it. Level 49 is weird, since it looks like an impossible or extremely hard level, and while it's around the difficulty of a hard demon, it is far easier than it looks. We are almost halfway with a challenge that looks pretty easy, but most of these jumps here are brutally hard, only having a couple milliseconds to react to on time. Level 51 is just a hard rated level. The coin though is a little harder. In order to get it, you have to jump over 8 of the jumps in the number 3 hardest level in game, Silent Club Step. On the harder side of the hard demon difficulty, we got this impossible quiz, where you have to remember all the answers and click on them as fast as you can, otherwise you'll die. We now get to the insane demon category. The second hardest types of levels there are. Black Blizzard is a hard extreme demon, but what would this level look like nerfed and merged with the main level Hexagon Force? Well, like this. It reaches spot 53 on the list. All wrapped up levels in a row though is a little harder. In 30 minutes you have to beat every single level in a row from Stereo Madness to Deadlocked. It does have some great gameplay, which can't be said about the level named Layout for Dan. This was intentionally made to have the worst gameplay possible in the game, and it succeeded in that. Math Time is an insane demon you can only beat with a degree in math, since at the start you have to answer some mathematical questions that are pretty damn hard. Prime is a level that only consists of prime numbers. Numbers that can only be divided by 1. And even though it is unrated, it would most likely be an insane demon if it got rated. The final hardest Stereo Madness entry on the list is just the normal Stereo Madness level, but 100 times in a row. It took the verifier 5 hours to beat. We now get to an extreme demon, the easiest extreme demon in the game currently. It's a minigame where you have to move past obstacles and avoid the spikes. This level was a couple minutes long. The following is 1 second long. This challenge is one of the hardest 1 second levels to ever exist, and it looks brutal. Another extreme demon is a remake of another game called Oshomania, where you have to hit the incoming tiles. Troll Level and Place are 2 other easy extreme demons. Troll Level being a level that keeps trolling you with jumps that don't look like they exist, and Place being a level built by more than 10,000 people at the same time, resulting in this abomination. Level 64 is the hardest non-demon level that ever got rated. A level named Illuminati once got rated, which when you look at the gameplay is an extreme demon. However, it got rated the harder difficulty, which a lot of people found weird since the gameplay was incredibly hard. Level 65 is a remake of Deadlocked called Danklocked, basically a meme version of Deadlocked buffed to the extreme. Climb Step is a medium demon. Nothing special, except for the fact that it once was impossible since there was a bug in this level. This bug could be surpassed though, but it was extremely hard to do right. You had a 10% chance this bug skip would work. You also had to do a frame perfect jump, pause on exactly the right time, and do another blind frame perfect jump. Pretty hard. On spot 67, we have the longest extreme demon in the game. It's called Light Travel and is exactly 9 minutes and 7 seconds long. Absolutely insane. Now we really start getting into insane stuff. Triple Spike times 1000, for example, is this triple spike 1000 times in a row, and it is a little harder than your average extreme demon. Buff This is a demon where all you need to do is fly straight. A remake of this level has been made though, with even less space to fly between, as difficult as a harder than average extreme demon. Level 70 is the hardest paper level ever beaten. There are paper levels of Back on Track, Stereo Madness and more, but this one called Graphite World by far is the hardest out of all of them. The hardest level ever beaten by botting, which resembles beating a level in practice mode, is called Fear Factory. This insanely impossible level took 4 months to be beaten in practice mode, and is around the same difficulty as doing Bloodbath, the hardest level in the game 5 years ago. There were a lot of clicks needed in this level, which can't be said about Extreme Demon Minimum, where you only need 50 clicks to beat the entire level. Level 73, Shitty Acheron, a remake of the current top 1 hardest level in the game, but nerfed quite a bit. The verifier said it now is around the difficulty of the top 200 hardest levels. As a reference, with level 74, we now cross the border of the top 150 levels in the game, Quantum Theory. You know what, let's make it crazier and immediately move to the levels harder than the top 50 hardest level. The first level harder than the top 50 is called Condescendence, another extreme demon. You normally have to play this level with 2 people at the same time to even have a shot at beating it, but one person beat it on his own. He had to focus on both players at the same time, which took him 14 months and more than 140,000 attempts to beat. If you thought Invisible Stereo Madness was hard, check out level 77, Sightless Sandstorm, an Invisible remake of an already harder than average Extreme Demon. We now take another leap to the hardest challenge in the game beaten legitimately, VSC. Even though it's only 14 seconds, only 8 people have beaten it. A little harder, even though controversial, Acheron, the current second hardest level beaten in the entire game. Only 3 people have beaten level 79. Only 2 more levels until a new difficulty will be introduced. Unnerved Slaughterhouse is said to be even more difficult than both Acheron and VSC. It is the current number 4 hardest level Slaughterhouse, buffed even more. Level 81 is the last legitimately done level, called VSC on track. It is VSC, after which you also need to beat back on track, making it just a teeny tiny bit harder than VSC. We now reach 3 new different difficulty phases that will be introduced. One for levels that a human actually might be able to do, one for levels that are technically possible but probably won't ever be done, and finally this phase for totally impossible levels. The first level for the technically possible category is 80 Jumps of Hell. These are 80 frame perfect jumps in a row where you cannot die a single time and has never been done before. Level 83, Maze of Justice, a remake of the level Blade of Justice but made insanely hard if not impossible. Level 84 is called Final Perfection, which is the current number 2 challenge in the game, but made even harder by making the spikes a bit wider. A lot harder than this, while still being possible, is the number 2 hardest challenge in the game that you need to defeat after playing the entirety of Stereo Madness. It is called Stereo Destination. We now hit a new category, with levels that 100% won't ever be done, but still are possible. First on the list, we got a spam level where you need to click 100 times a second on specific parts on the level, which might be possible with a method called lip spamming that looks quite weird. Or what about 3 seconds of hell, a challenge that's around the same difficulty of an Extreme Demon, needed to be beaten 281 trillion times before you actually can 100% the level. This is not a joke. Level 88 is a level that might not even have an ending. It's an infinitely generating level created by a programmer, which is randomly generated every single time you play it. Free World Record level is another level that doesn't look too bad when you start playing it. That ends at 83%, where the gameplay becomes almost physically impossible. Level 90, Devious 7, a level you can only beat on 7 FPS, where you need to click multiple times in one frame to beat a tiny part of the level. The final 10 levels will move on to the final category, the impossible levels, each one getting more impossible than the last one. Level 91 is named Tower, a level in which you need to click 35 trillion times in 1 second to unlock this wall. Level 92 has a name I'm not allowed to say on YouTube, but it is the number 1 hardest challenge ever made in Geometry Dash that is technically possible. 93 is really interesting, since this level seems very possible and not too hard at all. Once you start playing it however, you realize that this isn't the case. It once was the number 6 hardest level ever made. On the 7th current spot is a level named Singularity. It starts off as a harder rated level, but slowly becomes more and more impossible, surpassing the human limit eventually. The hardest physically possible level in the world right now is level 95. Tax evasion. Here is some gameplay of it. Truly impossible, however, is the hardest level in the game right now, called Y. You need this amount of FPS to even have a shot at beating it, whatever number it might be. Level 97, a level named Radioactive. It cannot be opened, therefore it's impossible. Level 98 is this level where you're stuck at 99% for your entire lifespan, and on spot 99 we got a level named Emptiness, a level that will continue for an infinite amount of time. Finally, level 100, my level named Wave Challenge. This is the most impossible level in the entire world, and only an insane human being like me would be able to beat it. I bet you can't. Goodbye.